It all started 3 million years ago. Humanity was just taking its first step, and that red-haired bastard was already there. He was just an ordinary Australop riding his boar with a love for home. There was something about that creature that defied the natural order. Time kept passing, and yet he never died. His entire species went completely extinct, but he remained. Countless eras passed over, and yet none touched him. In the endless flow of time, one thing drove him: to hunt, fight, and to battle. That was his only purpose. The only thing that made him happy. For more than 3,000 years, his body evolved through endless battle, and with nothing but raw physical strength, he became a god. The number one god, known as the god of planet Earth from the divine realm of Mu. He literally looked after the planet, but he was completely bored. At that moment, he was standing in the sanctuary of the god, and with just one step, the whole place trembled. The demon, the angel, everyone was terrified. Lucifer, who held second place, was already saying that the bastard was about to cause trouble. Again, Mu, sitting on his throne, says, "Damn, I have already fought everyone worth fighting. There is no one left who can face. The last time I had a decent fight must have been 1,000 years ago. Being too strong has its downsides too." That is when he comes to a conclusion. He has become too strong to fight. Maybe the best solution would be to weaken himself. Then others would have a chance. Really was a brilliant plan. He was sure of it. For example, he could take the fragile body of a human on the ground. That way, every fight would be a real challenge. He calls someone named Zhang Yang, and a giant dragon appeared, crashing down in front of him. And this beast is muscular, standing on 2 legs. This was the supreme god of the Yang sanctuary, whose name literally means dragon. Incredible dragon. He stares at Mu, who is trembling, and asks, "Did you call me, my lord?" Mu replies, "Listen, take care of this place because I am leaving." But Zhang Yang was not going to let him go that easily. He activates the absolute prison, and chains appear, wrapping around Mu's body. Zhang Yang tries to act tough, but he is trembling all over, demanding to know how Mu was supposed to handle this. Mu keeps walking straight, unfazed, saying he does not care about something like that. But the dragon collapses crying, asking, "How am I supposed to face all those gods if you are not here? I do not even know where you are going. They are going to beat me up if I tell them I have no idea where you disappeared to." However, breaks the chains and asks if Zhang Zhang wants to fight. Then, in that moment, Zhang Zhang wishes him a good trip. At that moment, Mo wonders who he should take over. Listening to the thoughts of every human on Earth, one highlights someone wondering if a god even exists, telling him to get lost or send him to another world. Mu says that is perfect and that he will even grant him an extra wish. The only problem is how to explain it to Zhang. So he tells the dragon that he will leave his body behind and to make sure to take care of it. Also, to look after the person who will take place. Desperate, the dragon pleads, "My lord, you can't leave your body. If it dies while your soul is out, it will perish too." But Mu is not worried. He says he will be back soon. Meanwhile, we see a demon crumbling and a boy holding a phone, celebrating that he finally defeated the king. But it was just in a game. Our loser, this time Lie, 17 years old, says that this arena in another world, kid really had some luck. He drops his phone, which breaks on the ground, ready for the jump without a parachute. He says he can leave now without regret. He says goodbye to this cruel world. Then he jumps, shouting that if there is a god, he wants him to take off, and if that god gets mad about what he is doing, then send him to another world. But instead, the kid really crashes into the ground, leaving a pool of blood behind. His hand twitches and lifts up again. Obvious, the one inside the body now is Mu, who is trying to figure out what just happened. In that moment, Liho comes face to face with Zhang, and neither of them has any idea who the other is. On Earth, Mu tries to stand up, but even his hand does not respond well. The narration explains involuntary muscle as those that move without your conscious will. The heart and internal organs are good examples of things that work on their own. But Mu, who spent 3 million years training his body, had reached the absolute maximum of human understanding. He could consciously control every part of his body, even his blood vessel, and somehow forced his heart to beat again, and stood up. It looks like he fixed his internal problem by moving the blood vessels in a way to stop the bleeding. Looking at the ground, he thinks to himself that it had been millennia since the last time he bled so much. Coming to this place really was the perfect choice. Now it was time to focus on the memories of this boy. First he had to go home, and for some reason, the boy walked home with his hands like an idiot. That home, the son's house, felt more like an abandoned prison. After hours of analysis, he discovered that this boy only had one relative, people who lived ridiculously far away and did not care about him at all, which meant the boy was completely alone in this world. His condition could be described as miserable, poor as dirt, broke. His only occupation was going to a place called school, and apparently at that school, there was always someone looking to pick a fight every time he showed up. Honestly, he was the perfect target. Could just walk in and jump right into a good fight the moment he threw a punch. Felt like 5 or 6 muscles in his arm tore. Well, it was not really because he walked in with his hands like an idiot. This boy really had terrible muscle. Still, he was excited because the muscle pain was something he had not felt in millions of years. I have seen high-class girls working in construction looking less stiff than this guy in a fight. The next day, at school, everyone was wondering why there was so much blood on the floor while he walked in humming a little tune. In class, they were talking about page 56 when suddenly he slammed the door against the wall. Then it bounced back and hit him in the face like an idiot. While rubbing his face, the memory guy yelled at, asking what the hell he was doing. "I will call Mu," who is now inside the son's body, the son's name, since that is how everyone around him calls him. Strangely, he approached the guy with that weird expression, asking if he was the person he was looking for. The guy said he had lost his mind, asked where his glasses were, and then punched him in the face out of nowhere. He even accused him of selling his glasses to buy food. Truly a pathetic loser. Blood was dripping while Liho just stood there. That was because the god Mu had his own personal rule when it came to fighting. For him, a fight was only fair when both sides were willing to fight, and he was always waiting for a real fight. The way he confirmed it was by giving his opponent a chance first, and now he was smiling, licking the blood off his face, saying the opportunity had come. The guy asked him if he had completely lost his mind to laugh like that, but the son just stepped up and punched him in the face. Immediately, his entire arm started to tremble, and he felt like the bones in his hand had cracked. The teacher immediately intervened, asking what the hell they thought they were doing. The fight had already started. He told both of them to stop and demanded to know what was going on in the middle of his class. But the teacher's authority was basically zero, because the guy just threw another punch at him. Lij got ready to defend himself, and it seemed like he was about to activate his fourth form. But nothing worked because the mana on the ground was different. He took another clean hit right in the face. The other guy told him to stop messing around, while Liho muttered that he was running out of options. His arms were broke, his legs were useless, and he had no magic. If that was, he would use the technique how to fight and slammed his head against the guy's hand. Since the skull bone is much tougher, obvious, the hand broke first. The guy screamed in pain, and just then Lee saw the perfect opening. Before the kid could even process what had happened, he grabbed his arm and slammed his forehead into his stomach. The solar, another human weak point, and before the kid could recover, Lijo lifted his head and smashed it directly against his chin, probably shattered his whole mouth. The boy fell to his knees face down on the ground, while all the spectators pulled out their phones to record. Nobody could believe what they were seeing. Yesterday, Liho was the one getting beaten up, and today he took down that guy just like that. In that moment, Mo remembers what happens once the thrill of the fight fades away. Only then do you feel the throbbing pain in the places where you got hit, that viscous taste in your mouth, the mix of saliva and blood. All of that was obviously something he immensely enjoyed, and exactly why he came down to earth. He looks at the fool lying on the ground, walks over, and thanks him. Then he opens his mouth wide and spits out the kid's ear. The hell, Mike Tyson? This Australops is really out of his mind, and the worst part is that this was his way of saying thanks for the fight. Here's a mark that proves I had fun with you. Crazy. His whole tribe must have been walking around with nibbled ear, and God help us, not even the elf girls were safe among the gods. However, this was considered a mark of strength. It meant you managed to withstand and entertain the strongest being in the world. But on Earth, the interpretation was completely different. In class, student said, "Did you hear about that fight earlier?" The lazy one replied, "The what? Just some random fight." The other one responded, "I saw something weird. It seemed like the kid actually wanted to be bullied. And the worst part is the one who lost ended up castrated. Apparently in Korea, when you castrate a cat, cut a small notch in its ear as a mark. Cruel. Really? Why do that to animals?" Meanwhile, the loser is being taken away in an ambulance while the public danger waves from the window, smiling as if to say thank. That is when the teacher arrives and tells the kid to go straight to the teacher's office. Inside, the teacher drops into a chair and asks him if he has lost his mind. How dare he do something like that to a classmate? He is about to give a good scolding, but the kid's face is already red, begging to be hit instead. He is even breathing heavily while the teacher murmurs that he does not even know why he is wasting his time talking to him. He says it is better to call the parents for a meeting. For now, he should leave without causing a scene. With no other option, Liho heads out onto the street. He finds out that leaving school early just means going straight home. And of course, as good as that fight was, he really needs time to recover now. This body is wrecked. It would be great if he could use the old reliable mana. Call it chak, whatever, for the god. That was what set them apart from humans. Remember that in some worlds, humans became hunters and used it. In other, they could form magical circles and become sorcerers. But on Earth, there is no mana, which means no abilities can be used at all. He tries to cast some, but nothing happens. He will have to get used to fighting with his fists again. If he collapsed on the bed, recovery would take forever. So for now, the best thing was just to rest. But at that very moment, he reappears inside Mu's original body, opens his eye, and sees the boy clinging to Young's neck. Right after that, the real Lijo tells Mu to hand over the dragon, like Muser, and send it to another world. Anyway, it would not hurt to send him off with a dragon. Obvious, that kid knew that having a dragon would make conquering any world way too easy. But Mu just raises his hand and says a weird guy showed up and snatched his soul. Liho is confused, wanting to know what he is trying to do. Mu replies that he is going to give him exactly what he wished for. The boy would be sent to another world. The scene shifts to Lucifer's domain, where he is standing in front of a portal. The little trio approaches, but before they can say a word, Lucifer says no. However, says yes. He decided to send this person, so Lucifer should open the door. Lucifer immediately turns around and asks why he would make such a decision, but with that bitten ear as proof, you already know. Mu simply replies that he decides because he is the strongest, and if Lucifer has a problem with that, then he can step up and fight. Immediately, Lucifer realizes there is not much he can do. If he fights, the guy will enjoy it. If he does not fight, then he will have to obey. In the end, he has no other choice. Mu tells him to step aside, because he will open the door himself. Lucifer warns him not to interfere. Interfering in another god's domain goes against the unwritten rule, and besides, he would be stopped by a barrier. But of course, Mu breaks through it instantly. He tells Lucifer to get out of the way, because he has more important things to attend to. Then he grabs the boy and tells him to jump. The boy asks, "What is that?" And Mu replies that it is exactly what he wanted. Passage to another world. Le tries to ask for a dragon, but Mu immediately says no way, pokes him with his finger, and throws him inside, while the boy disappears screaming that he wanted to be super powerful. Mu thinks to himself that the little brat really does not want to in any F. He simply waves goodbye to Lucifer and asks him to take care of the boy. But Lucifer grits his teeth in anger. Lucifer was a god who originally came from his own realm, planet Amiri. There, he was known as the Demon King. Sitting at the top of all living, his arrogance grew and grew until he decided to challenge an existence known as a god. He summoned a huge sword and threw it straight through his opponent's chest. That day, Lucifer killed a god, and in that moment, he stole his place and became one. He was hailed as the god above all gods. For a long time, he reigned as the absolute master of everything. Invincible, supreme, legendary, unmatched, catastrophic, mythological. How many adjectives can one guy have? But despite all that glory, he was crushed the moment Mu appeared. Still, he swears that one day he will get revenge on that useless human. And at that moment, Mu is just riding Django home. Meanwhile, on Earth, the boy wakes up mumbling that the son is going to die. All he needs to do is call Cho Hyun. Probably that muscular guy hitting a punching bag. Or maybe it is Kan Chio. Or it could be Chan Yong, because his phone is ringing right there. Turns out it is that blonde guy. And honest, that is scary. Could the Australopithecus already be facing a monster like him? The blonde answers the phone and says to talk while the beaten up kid asks he wants a new phone since his screen just broke. Judging by the smile on his face, definitely yes. Back in class, the door swings open and the beaten up kid walks in. No one can believe how wrecked he looked. Everyone laughs, saying he always acts tough, but in the end, he got destroyed by that loser, and on top of that, humiliated. We do not even know this guy's name, but he throws his backpack on the floor and asks if anyone has a problem with him, saying if so, let us settle it in a fight. But then a girl steps forward telling him to sit down and shut up or leave the class. The guy guy is already furious, demanding to know if she is crazy and grabs a chair. Oh no, here we go. Parko's J. Parko's too about to hit a girl, but suddenly a Ramandino walks into the classroom. Just look at the size of that teacher's forearm. He asks why the class president is standing and she sits back down saying it was nothing. Then he tells her to see him after class to talk. She wants to know why, but instead he tells her to check on the kid caused the earlier commotion, Lijo, because he is gone. He waves goodbye with his hand, saying he is too busy and asking her to help him with this problem. Poor girl ends up having to deal with Julia's situation. She knocks on his door, but when he does not answer, she turns the doorknob. Inside, she finds him lying on the floor with cockroaches crawling all over. The guy looked dead. For a moment, she wondered if he was a corpse. Not long after, he is in the hospital hooked up to an IV. He had been sleeping this whole time, but suddenly the spirit of Mu returns to him. Opening his eyes and looking at the ceiling, he wonders where the hell he is. Clearly, this was not the same place he had fallen asleep. He looks down, sees his hand connected to the device, and immediately realizes something was invading his body, heading straight for his bloodstream, and surprisingly, he can even feel that it is nutrient. What the hell? This guy really has total control over his body. He notes that it is not as good as magic, but the effect is not bad at all. He has finally found something valuable on Earth. Class president sees him awake with a strange expression on his face and tells him to explain what happened, but before he can even start, she interrupts him, saying she was only there to help because the teacher asked her to. Leo realizes that it was her who helped him recover and asks her to wait a sec because he wants to ask her something. She tells him to hurry up since she needs to get back to school. But Leo urgently needs information about Earth, and the most important question of all, of course, is where he can train his body. She just looks at him with a twisted expression, one eye half closed, the other wide open, and directly tells him that she knows he does not have any money. So the next thing we know, we are at the famous old people's park. Honestly, the place is in good shape. It is everything, including plenty of pull-up bars. Observing everything, protagonist realizes humanity has evolved a lot compared to 4,000 years ago. Back then, training was just about lifting rock, climbing mountains, or digging holes. He knows he has to be careful. Considering how advanced this equipment is, there must be really strong humans around here. But in the middle of his training, suddenly, a rock crashes into his back. Wait, did that bastard find him already? The guy sweats with rage, saying it looked like Liho was trying to hide. But Liho just lifts the rock and asks who threw it. The kid says it was obvious, but before he can finish, he gets punched right in the face and falls to the ground. Lijo thanks him for the preventive attack and welcomes him to the second round. The next chapter jumps to the annual meeting of the gods in the heavens. Jong trembles, terrified to present. He explains that since the Lord is somewhat absent, he will handle the situation for now. But just then, Lucifer calls him, demanding to know what he thinks he is doing. John starts to shake, insisting that he is not doing anything, that he is just delivering a message, and then he will leave. The message is simple, the same as always. If you find someone worth fighting, send word, that is all. Immediate. Lucifer slams his fist on the table, furious, asking if they are mocking them. He is fed up with this pointless routine, and now that bastard does not even show up here. He asks the other gods if they agree with this nonsense. And wait a minute, is not that guy in the back from Dragon Ball Z, that suspicious looking bastard? The angels and everyone else remain silent until finally someone reminds the purpose of these meetings is to maintain the stability of the world. That is because unknown entities can show up at any moment. Still, it is disappointing they do not even show up for something so important. This speaker is the tier 3 goddess, the divine Archer Suso, and yet there is too much so in her name. So let us stick with 3. Lucifer slams the table again, shouting that the world does not exist just to serve as entertainment for that guy. The whole place collapses at any moment because of his negligence, and not just that, every time he tries something, it ends up in an even bigger disaster. Just look back at what happened to the poor Cyclops planet 1,000 years ago. The void creature known as Shoga bite out of the planet, while Mu appeared from behind and landed another blow that destroyed everything together. Lucifer knows that if all the gods had come together, they could have dealt with that without causing any harm to the Cyclops planet. But that bastard wanted to handle it alone. For Lucifer, that guy no longer deserves the position of a god. Meanwhile, Zhang is just standing there, completely unsure of what to do. Why does he have to go through something like this? He just wanted Mu to come back soon. Back in the park, Kid is holding his face, wondering if that bastard has lost his mind. Clearly, he does not know who his cousin is. That cousin is a professional boxer, and he is going to leave him in pieces. Keel standing to the side comments that his hands are pretty fat and asks what sport he practices. Mu replies that he does not practice any sport. He just fights because he likes it. The guy laughs, saying he must have some kind of high school syndrome or something like that. But alright, it is time to see how good he really is. He throws a solid punch right to the nose, but the blonde does not look the slightest bit happy about it. That is because he could clearly see that Lee had been eagerly waiting for the fit to crash into his face, just like that bastard from the boxer. The only difference is that this guy is a phenomenon. He is licking the blood. As always, he would not dodge the first hit. The blonde is already shaken, and Mu adopts a stance asking if that is how it is done. He throws a punch while the guy thinks copying a stance is aesthetic, but suddenly, boom, he takes such a hard hit that he is dragged across the floor, wondering what kind of stone hit him. Meanwhile, Liho asks again if that is how it is done. At the moment of impact, he flexed every muscle in his arm, but because of that, his whole body is shattered with pain. Still, this phenomenon, this rare masochist, is enjoying it. I would love to see the author use this same talent to draw faces on women. The feeling of muscles bursting just from contact, that was something I would only felt from a handful of bastards up in the sky. It was pure bliss, but to keep fighting I had to take care of this body. For now, I would apply some rivet, basically wrestling wrestling bandage, but with an old name. The extra number. One asks his brother what he is waiting for. He tells him to take care of that kid one for all. The blonde agrees. He approaches and asks, kid really thinks he can win, so he starts throwing a flurry of punches, mocking him for having such a big mouth and such terrible guard. Leijo notices the guy's speed and precision, but it is all too simple. All he has to do is watch which muscle fibers tense up, and he knows exactly where the punch is going. Blonde feints to the stomach, but it is actually a side hook just to be intercepted with a counter to the arm, and wow, the guy stumbles back. Immediately, he raises his broken arm, confused, and starts to scream. Leijo notes that his reaction was identical to the other guy. They really were brothers. But then he gets another direct to the jaw and collapses unconscious. The fool who remains standing has no idea what is going on as Liho approaches, asking if it is time to finish what they started. The guy just begs him to stay away. It is then that Liho realizes that unfortunately the guy no longer has the will to fight, and that makes him useless. He says, you do not want to fight. Just admit defeat and we will end this. The guy opens his mouth to speak, but gets a direct punch to the nose. He grabs his face trying to say something, but Liho hits him again. A right hook to the jaw, another to the stomach, one to the chest. The kid is his head about to explode, insisting that he gives up, yet he still does not stop. He also takes a knee to the gut. Lee says this guy is incredible, truly tenacious. He refuses to admit defeat no matter what. Then he spits out a piece of his ear and licks his lips, leaving another small mark. Kid's head is swollen, and he mutters that he is a crazy bastard. Back in his room, which has more cockroaches than furniture, Mu reflects that fights are good. This body breaks too easily. Just 2 punches and he is already wrecked. If he wants to keep having these fights, he has to take care of his body. So he decides to go back to heaven to see if Jong managed to hair what he asked for. But the moment he tries to teleport, the attempt failed. He can't understand why it is not work. So we see what happened a few days earlier in the Divine Kingdom, in Lucifer's empire, when Muido asked him to take care of the boy. He wrote Jong, who asked him what life was like on Earth. Mu said it was pretty good, except that the body he was using was ridiculously weak. That is why he wanted a magical recovery orb, a type of object could only be obtained on planets brimming with mana. On Earth, there were only a handful of objects blessed by divine grace or power, and anyone who managed to get one of those was considered a demigod among humans. So Mu told him to get it ready, and said he was leaving. Jong, however, warned him about the meeting of the gods. Mu simply reached into his pants, pulled out a letter, handed it to him, and said, here's my answer. Read it to them. Goodbye. He returned to Earth and his body collapsed on the ground. But Lucifer was watching. He did not know exactly what Mu was up, but he was sure that Mu's body was empty, and since he had not even shown up at the meeting of the gods, he might not return for quite some time. An opportunity had arisen that only happened once every 1,000 years. At that moment, Lucifer activated life taxidermy, and a storm of purple arrows rained down on Jong, but Jong noticed it right away. He backed off with a retreat maneuver, dodged then stopped arrogantly and demanded to know what Lucifer planned to do. Was this a declaration of war against the god of Earth? Lucifer then took to the sky, declaring he would strip the god of Earth of his title. This was a declaration. Jong immediately released a pressed breath against, but Lucifer swatted it away, redirecting the attack as he circled the entire planet and exploded behind them. Still, Soso had to raise a defensive barrier to protect all the other gods. The two stared at each other, and Jong dropped his polymorphic form, transforming into a gigantic dragon. Lucifer announced that he would deal with his master later anyway. In the next chapter, Sozuoso comments that this does not seem like a place for a conversation. Wait, what? They had already sent Jong flying. Damn, I thought it would last a little longer. She is about to leave, but Lucifer tells her to wait and say which side she is on. She replies that it does not matter, that for now she is neutral. He accepts that, saying he just wants no one to interfere. If anyone is against him, step forward now, and they will settle it right away. Jong asks if he really thinks he can defeat his master, but Lucifer just laughs, asking if he is talking about that person who abandoned the body of a god to take over a weak human body. At that moment, Jong realizes that Lucifer knows the truth, and Lucifer says they have been drunk on his power for too long and neglected their vigil. Laurel as always. Jong lashes out with his tail, swearing he won't let Lucifer do as he pleases, but Lucifer simply disappears, reappears behind him, cuts off his tail, and tells him he will keep him alive for now, because he needs Yonger's help on Earth. Once there, he will kill Mu and take control of the world. The poor dragon trembles in pain. Meanwhile, back on Earth, that kid whom our protagonist tore the ear off for the second time is trembling in front of the coach, who scolds him. He does not even want to fighting, but the coach just tells him to rest. Kid leaves mumbling that if it were not for that bastard, he would not be in this state. He exits. He runs into Steel, the #1 fighter in the gym, who immediately asks what happened to his arm. Wakchio, remember, this guy is the strongest in the whole academy. Maybe if it is him, it will finally work. Then the excuses start. He says that these days kids are scared, that his little brother had been bullied at school, so he went there just to talk, but a whole gang attacked and beat him up. Completely unfair. Steel lets it go, only telling him to be more careful before waving goodbye. The blonde guy is left confused because his sad story did not work, but then the guy stops and wants to know the exact name of the person who beat him up. Back in the room, protagonist wonders why he can't go back to the heaven. The only reason he would lose control over something so simple would be there was some problem with his original body, but that does not make sense. Jong was supposed to be protecting him, and there were not many beings that maybe all the gods had teamed up to attack. He immediately gets up, saying it is not the time to stay still. Those bastards had the audacity to attack his body instead of challenging him to a fight, which was even worse. But he forces himself to calm down. There is really nothing he can do right now, and Jong is not exactly an easy opponent either. So for now, the best he can do is train in his usual park. Since his arms are wrecked, plan is to strengthen the other muscles that this body has not trained. Every sit-up makes his whole body burn. His muscles scream, and for him, it is pure bliss. He laughs like a madman, while all the old folks in the park look at him confused. It is then that someone calls him, falls backward round, and that girl from class approaches, asking why he has not been going to school. Sitting on the bench, he asks her what the point of going to school is. Anyway, it is not exactly a good place to train the body. She wants to know why he thinks that way. He says it is obvious. He needs to train to get stronger. She insists insists on asking why he wants strength. He replies that it is to fight better, because right now he is still too weak to fight as much as he wants. He goes on and on for hours ranting about training muscle, strengthening arm, improving breathing, and so on. Eventually, she gets tired and asks what is the point of all that training if he does not even have anyone to fight. Just working out won't do him any good. He needs to go to a place where people create conflicts for no reason. Exactly the kind of place she is talking about. Cool. She tells him, be there tomorrow and stop being a nuisance. She walks away while he thinks to himself that maybe she is right. Those two guys from before would not even think about coming back after the beating he needed to find someone else. But as soon as he stands up thinking about it, someone appears behind him and calls his name. Lijo smiles. Seeing the punch coming toward him, thinks that Earth really is the best place that exists. The next chapter tells the story of Steel. He had only been an amateur boxer and his sister was a promising dancer. But with her beauty and talent, she attracted the attention of a stalker. The man's obsession grew until he finally crossed the line and attacked. Steel showed up just in time, landing the first direct hit on the stalker's jaw. Problem was that he stopped crime too soon, which is why a real investigation was not conducted, and soon the man was free again. But now with an even stronger obsession, he was much more dangerous. Steel stopped him again. This time his sister did not escape unscathed. The stalker had cut her ankles and leg. From that day on, Steel no longer trusted the law. He decided to play it being bad, walking around with a club strapped to his back, hitting the city's scum. The thing was that he started to anticipate people's crime. Even before they thought about acting, they were already being hit. For him, fighting had become a form of judgment, and now he takes a clean hit to the pushed back. The punch was not even that strong. Steel was clearly tested, but that did not matter. Through the first, which meant the signal had been given. Lee Ho had been wondering when he would fight again, and suddenly this guy shows up. Steel, however, demands to know why he has been hitting people. Was he trying to be some kind of thug or what? But Lee Ho just replies that he is not a fan of useless chatter, which infuriates Steel. He says fine and jumps straight into the fight. The first flurry of punches comes in, and Lee Ho dodges. The guy praises him, but then swings his arm to block his view, and throws a hook from behind that guard. Once again, the kid manages to defend himself. Steel congratulates him and tells him to hang in there. Then he unleashes a heavy shot to his arm, and another to his stomach. Lee Ho realizes that the bastard is targeting the already injured parts of his arm, and just when he notices that, Steel comes in from behind with a clean shot to the rib, making him stagger. Steel immediately says he probably can't even use his arm anymore, but for him, when it comes to judgment, there is no mercy. Lee Ho is completely shaken, and yet it is not right in the head. He almost seems to be enjoying it. Steel can't believe this lunatic is laughing, and at that moment, Lee Ho understands. There is no way to beat this guy, not now, but still, can't waste this chance to fight. He needs to be cautious, stay calm, and avoid smiling too much. After all, even Mutato did it before. Still, he finds a way to enjoy it. At the same time, though, he also wants to win. In moments like this, calms his emotions and carefully analyzes his opponent. Fighter throws a punch, but Lee Ho pulls the fabric, causing the punch to hit nothing. Instantly, he slides to the side and counters with a seek. The more Mu thought during a fight, the stronger he became. In those moments, he suppressed his emotions as much as possible. Still, every time he got hit, he could not hide that he was enjoying it, and once again he had to force himself to calm down. But what the hell is that fake? Clearly, he is trying to hide his emotion, but that only infuriates Steel even more. Steel charges, yelling, does this idiot think this is a game? At least Lee Ho dodges, steps back, plants his foot on the ground, and throws a handful of sand in the guy's. The opponent spits, saying that only criminals would use such dirty tricks. Then, suddenly, Lee Ho turns with that crazy look again, demanding to know why he is taking so long to attack. Come on already. That just fuels Steel's rage even more. He charges and throws a direct punch at his face, but now our guy has completely turned into a boxer. He barely dodges out of reach. In the next second, Steel is already behind him, and Lee Ho ducks under his chin. Impressed by the bastard's precision, of course, one-on-one combat has existed since ancient times. The difference between fighters back then and now is that in the past, a much more defensive style was required. The reason was simple. Ground was unstable, and a single injury could cost you the fight, maybe because of treated floors or modern shoes. Today people fight in a much more aggressive way, but they do not pay attention to exactly where they step, since they do not need to. Lee keeps dodging until suddenly Steel steps on a small stone without realizing it. In that instant, protagonist takes the opportunity to hit him in the face, but when he raises his arm, it does not respond, so instead he throws an elbow, and even though it says it did not cause much damage, it shatters Steel's glasses, and now his head is bleeding. But Steel does not look the slightest bit amused. He slams the baton against Leo's leg, making him fall to the ground. Steel then asks if he is having fun. Is he sure this stupid kid is the type to laugh at people like that? Alright, today is the day the joke ends. He raises his weapon ready to slam it in the protagonist's face. He is convinced that he is lost. He can barely remember the taste of defeat. The last time was 4,000 years ago, but then, suddenly, something hits Steel in the head. He stumbles to the side, confused, wondering what just happened. Someone calls to Lee while Steel is distracted, grabs the jacket, throws it over his body, and runs away. At that moment, he looks to see who is coming up from behind. It is all small and tiny. Meanwhile, in the divine realm, whose body is sealed by Lucifer, who is convinced that bastard has no way of coming back to him now. In this completely isolated space, the soul could not enter. All that remained was for someone to break the barrier of Earth. This takes us back to when Django. Lucifer told him that once he was done with Mu, he would leave him as the god of Earth. For him, the offer was perfect. Zhang murmured something under his breath, and Lucifer demanded he speak up. The dragon then asked that barrier was really isolated and impossible to break. Lucifer confirmed that it was absolutely impossible for any harm to come to it. At that moment, a glow filled the chamber, and Zhang thanked inside his own body. It unleashed a massive explosion. Lucifer immediately understood the purpose of that question, to blow up the whole base. Amidst the smoke and debris, little Zhang shot out, saying he had used up all his strength and now had to return to Earth to meet his master. But Lucifer was already after him, calling out to that damn lizard to stop, pulled out a spear, warning that he would take out both him and his master, threw it with such force that it almost hit poor dragon in the back. Just as he was being pushed into a portal, the little one fell from the sky like a bullet. And who did he crash into? Steel, right in the head. Now Steel appears twisted in the chamber, muttering in embarrassment about what just happened. happy. Lejo, however, remains silent, grinding his teeth in rage, saying that Lucifer really is a bastard. But then he lets out a peculiar smile, probably already imagining the chaos to come. The bastard pretended he did not want to fight, but now he has caused all this mess and it needs to be fixed. He stands up saying there is no other way out. This body needs to get stronger so he can fight again. But immediately his arm twists painfully. He realizes that at this rate he won't be able to fight for a while. So he asks Jong if he brought what he asked for. Jong nods, saying he can be trusted, and then he vomits a huge orb the size of his own head. It is a dragon's bloodstone imbued healing power. If I had known things would get this serious, I would have brought more. Lee Ho takes it and says this should be enough. The stone activates and his body starts to heal. But he soon notices this is not ordinary healing power. His muscles already feel more alive. Maybe it is some kind of enhancer for the body itself. Jong, a little proud of himself, admits he used a bit of his own power to adjust it. The little guy really put in the effort. Leo tells him to use what is left, but the dragon decides to save it, as it might be useful later. The scene shifts to another little dragon, Dolly, the one that belongs to the class girl. She talks to him affectionate, telling him he is as cute as always. She wishes she could talk to him all day, but she places him inside his little house and says goodbye before heading to school. Back in class, the boy who got beaten up has suddenly become a nerd. He has decided to change his life. Honestly, the delinquent path never suited him anyway. He needed to leave that nonsense behind and focus on studying for real. But just then, Lee Ho opens the door. The guy almost spills on himself. Lee Ho asks him if he wants to fight while the girl behind him says he finally showed up. He looks to the side and admits she convinced that now he is there to find someone to fight. She looks confused, wondering if he is going to try something weird. Meanwhile, downstairs, someone asks Steele if he has heard about the sophomore who got castrated. Apparently, some blonde guy had been bullying, but the kid fought back and even bit his ear. With that detail, Steele remembers the blonde guy who got his ear bit. It was definitely him, which means the culprit was that guy, not the main character. He was already leaving, saying there was no reason to fight the kid, while the protagonist stayed there with something clearly weighing on his shoulder, murmuring that nothing good happened today at school. Everyone else was just staring at that board, and he did not even have anyone to train with. But then he sees Steele further ahead by the shape and distribution of the muscle. He instantly knows who it is. He shouts loudly that it is the same guy from before, and when Steele sees the lunatic coming toward him, he runs off wondering how the hell that bastard recognized. The guy was wearing a mask, and even had his hood up, and yet there is Lee Ho with that quirky smile happily chasing. Steele ducks into an alley and Lee Ho follows right behind, but the place is empty. He was so ready for a fight, especially now that his body was healed. Just then, Jong sneaks off and says he will track down the person from yesterday, since that bastard had touched him. All he needed to do was follow the trail. He moves forward but trips over someone's foot. Looking up, he asks what they are staring at, and it turns out to be that girl from class. Of course, since she had a pet lizard at home, she instantly falls in love when she sees it. Jong puts his tiny hands on his hips, telling her to move aside, but she just grabs him and lifts him up. He warns her to be careful because it is extremely dangerous. If he could use magic, he could easily get rid of her. He thought she would not understand, but she is there puzzled, asking what this talking lizard is supposed to be. To her, it was too cute, maybe even cuter than her own Dolly. But Jong slips away and climbs onto the protagonist's back, apologizing and saying they caught him because he was too weak. The girl immediately presses Leo, asking if that little thing is his friend. Le looks at her and says yeah, that you could say they are friends. Finally, we learn the girl's name is Yujin, and right now she is dying of jealousy towards him. Protagonist takes note of this, then lifts his foot and asks if she wants to keep Jong for a while. Of course, she does not refuse. In the blink of an eye, Jong is in her room, hands on her hip, potting like a little brat. Lai had told her he was hunting someone, so for now, she had to take care of him. The lizard fan immediately accepted and practically threw Jong onto herself. Before leaving, Leo reminded her that when he came back, Jong had to return by himself. The dragon wanted to know where he was going, and Lai answered that he was going to train. Back in her room, Jong introduces himself as the secretary of the Great Master. As they gave her the order, she will cooperate with it for now. Seeing her small hand outstretched, she feels a tug at her heart and touches it with 2 fingers, saying she will help too. He may not believe it, but she is the class president. He does not quite understand, so she explains that it basically means she is the leader of the class and holds the #1 position. Jong is excited, saying that it is no wonder the teacher chose, but then he stops and thinks, wasn't the teacher supposed to be the leader? Yujin, confused, tells him that the boy is not even ranked that high. Jong is already shouting, that is impossible. The teacher is the strongest of all and refuses to believe otherwise. If she is the class leader, then the teacher must be the great leader. That is how it should be. He keeps lecturing her, saying that from now on, she has to do everything she can to make him the strongest. Yujin agrees but tells him that he will have to come see her regularly. The little rascal is thrilled. His plan to gather information was working perfect, and in his mind, he thinks that helping her a bit to boost the teacher to #1 is the ideal approach. Deep down, he swears it won't be long or he is back on top of the world. Meanwhile, our boy is back in the park going through his daily training. His body had significantly improved after the pill. The effect on his body was outstanding, and most of the muscles that had been torn were now growing even stronger. Question now was if he was ready to withstand something tough. He slams his fist against the steel bar in the park, and what the hell? His hand comes out completely intact. That little orb had made a big. He looks back like someone did, but there is no one there. Looks like the guy did not show up for a fight today. He decides he will talk to him tomorrow at school. He walks away, leaving the steel bar behind, now marked with the impression of his hand. On his way home, something catches his scent. It is Jong perched on Yugen's shoulder while she checks out some clothing store. As soon as he catches the scent, he waves goodbye, runs across the rooftop, and lands right on our guy's shoulder. He says not to worry. He managed to gather a ton of information from the girl. As they keep walking, something is clearly happening in an alley. Jong tells him to wait. He is picking up a scent coming from that direction. In the alley, an alleged model citizen insists he is not a criminal, saying the only thing he did was steal a bike. Bastard. Court. He says this directly to Steele, the guy who beats people up before they even commit a crime. Just imagine what he would do to a real thief. The man has been knocked to the ground, but in the midst of the beating, someone appears appears behind him. When Steel turns around to look, Jong is pointing toward a ramen shop. He insists that the terrible smell is coming from there, and that they should go there instead. But obviously, our guy knows that is a bluff. They stare at each other, and Steel tells him to wait, saying there must be some misunderstanding. Lee does not care. He charges, and Steel takes his stand. They get closer, but instead of hitting, they burn each other with their gaze. As always, protagonist waits for the opponent to make the first move, while Steel does not seem very willing to start. Then suddenly, the thief grabs Steel's baton from behind and swings it. Steel dodges to the side, and of course, you know what happens next. The blow goes straight to the kid, hitting him squarely in the head. He smiles, excitedly asking if he really got hit. A trickle of blood runs down, and in the next second, he drives his foot into the thief's stomach. Steel slides to the side, recovers his baton mid-spin, and smashes it into the thief's face. Leo continues. Headbutt. Another headbutt punches to the chest, a devastating blow to the stomach. The man collapses, screaming for help. Leo smiles, but then the smile fades as he murmured, "This is boring. When he first arrived on Earth, every fight was brutally difficult. His body ached with every clash. This kind of completely tedious one-sided beating needed someone on that guy's level." Speaking of him, that bastard had already slipped away. The moment the fight started, Steel ran off. Looking back, he saw the lunatic grinning from ear to ear, enjoying himself. Jong, in the meantime, was being all adorable, saying he needed a proper meal, but Steel kicked him aside as he fled, leaving the little guy behind. Not long after, Steel gets home wondering why that kid likes to fight so much, and then his sister shows up announcing, "Prosecutor has arrived." That same day, she had arrested another criminal. It was Kanha, her sister, the former dancer. She pushes him off her shoulder, telling him not to get in the prosecutor's way. He does not move, and she comments, "Kid is tougher than entering her room. She orders him to make some eggless feet. Steel notices that she does not seem to care much about what happened back then anymore. But since that day, all he feels during a fight is pure rage. It was not always like that when he started boxing. Things were different. The scene shifts back to school with Jong perched on the son's shoulder apologizing, saying he was too hungry yesterday. Everyone looks at him wondering why this kid brought a dragon to school like it was normal. Then he sees Yujin, who lights up immediately, happily greeting Jong. The protagonist asks if she found the information he asked for. She nods and tells him she knows that guy. He goes by the nickname I. It is a combination of names that means someone who hit and is famous precisely for that, crushing anyone who messes. But she wants to know why Lejo is so determined to find this guy. Did he do something wrong? Liho explains that this guy just always runs away, and that when he finally catches him, he won't let him escape again. But as he says that, the guy is right next to him. Steel leans close to his ear and whispers for him to stay after class. He lifts his club and walks away. Yujin asks if they know each other, but our guy just stands there with that quirky smile. The scene shifts to the classroom. Lee's excited, even blushing, saying he can't wait for class to end. Jong is perched on his leg. A little later, he hands the little dragon back to her again. Jong is exhausted and nauseous, but of course, she happily accepts it and walks away with a smile. As soon as she leaves, Steel appears. Leo thanks him, saying he has been waiting for him. Steel tells him to shut up and starts putting on his glove. Protagonist wonders if those old protective wraps are magnets. Steel asks him if he likes to fight. Leo shakes his head. If he thinks he enjoys fighting, he is mistaken. What he really enjoys is the pain and the rush that runs through his body when he gets his muscles screaming with every movement he forces. From the past until now, fighting is the only thing that has made him feel alive. You could say he fights out of necessity. Steel, seeing him smiling and blushing, knows this bastard is lying. He digs into his bag, pulls out another pair of gloves, throws them at him. Leo catches them right in the face. Steel tells him to get ready, puts on the gloves and lunges forward, saying he can't wait to fight someone who is not just a simple thug. Throws the first punch, but Steel dodges it, annoyed that the lunatic is so impatient. Then he calms down, remembering that there is no reason to get angry. This fight is exactly what he came here for. He steps back, framing it in his mind like a boxing match in a ring. The body has to stay relaxed. No tension or the movements will be stiff. Lunges again. This time, bam. Steel lands a clean right hook and follows it up with a left combo, leaves the guy staggering. Now Steel is starting to enjoy it. A complete torso rotation transferring all the strength directly into the punch. Feeling was fun. This was real boxing. Lee, however, after taking the hit, thinks that if it were not for that pearl he consumed earlier, this would have been dangerous, which meant this fight was incredible fun. Meanwhile, that person in the other room, someone from the night study group, is shaken. It turns out it was not Steel's friend at all, but a guy. They had left him a note with a snack asking why he always fell asleep when he came by. He gets up, murmuring that maybe it is not too late, and leaves. On the stairs, he notices that something is happening outside. On it, heavy hits, receiving a full sequence until he suddenly stretches out his leg, plants it directly in Steel's chest, landing a devastating kick. Steel screams in frustration, asks, "What the hell was that? Aren't you supposed to be boxing?" Protagonist, however, asks what exactly boxing is supposed to. If it is a fight, why limit yourself to just using your hands? He throws another kick, this time right to Steel's forehead, and before Steel can react, a heavy hit crashes into his shoulder. Now it is Steel who gets hit, wondering how this kid's kicks could be so powerful. Then he notices another one coming toward the back of his leg. He knows that if that connects, he is going down. The kick hits with full force, but nothing happens. He steps back, realizing in horror the strengthening effect of the dragon bloodstone had worn off. Steel notices it too and asks if the kid just lost his strength. Steel laughs, and the protagonist laughs back. Neither of them makes a move, both realizing that the other is just as crazy. Meanwhile, someone is at the door watching, murmuring that the sight of those two idiots laughing while they fight is pathetic. They look down on people like that with disgust, but while wrinkling their nose, the two are enjoying a straight-up brawl. Lai tries to lift his leg in a defensive stand, but Steel punches him right in the leg, knocking him off balance, and then follows up with a clean shot. Now our boy is really getting wrecked. With that scrawny body that barely has any muscle, there is no way he can take down someone trained like that. If only he could use a bit of magic or something. Then maybe things would turn around. He starts to rise, forming a faint trail of magic in his hand, clenches his fist, and jumps with a strike. Steel praises the F but easily blocks it, saying that little jab is too light. But then something darts past Steel without him noticing. The next second, he feels a presence behind him, turns his head, and bam, something crashes into his chine. He stumbles, thinking at least Lee Ho Ho's punch punches are weak, but before he can recover, more come from behind. When he turns again, a headbutt straight face. Protagonist is surprised that this is actually work to use mana. You are supposed to concentrate all your energy on a single point, but when you do, it is not just the mana that react. Particles in the air, dust, impurity, whatever, are also attracted. Normally, those get burned, leaving only pure mana. But since he really does not have suitable mana, what he is creating are basically little bubbles of air, or something like that. He never thought he would fight like, and honestly, facing Steel turned out to be very interesting. So he lunges, trying to bite Steel's ear. Steel moves his face away and screams. This lunatic is trying to castrate him too. No way. He admits defeat right then, saying there is no need to cross the line like that. He covers his face, saying that next time he will make him pay. Meanwhile, Lee Jo is just there licking his lip to Jong with a small backpack, saying that is enough for now. Yin tells him to let her know if he needs anything else, and he just thanks her before leaving. On the way, he sees Steel coming back and immediately remembers this is the bastard. Perfect opportunity to take him out now. He drops the backpack and lunges straight at him, only to get punched in the stomach, sending him to the ground. Luckily for him, Steel just walks away, leaving him drooling and unconscious until his son finds him later. The next day, our guy shows up at school in new clothes, and now Jong even has his own little backpack. Jong asks what he thinks of this new cool vibe. It was all thanks to the effort he had been putting in with that girl. Just then, Steel walks, notices, and asks why the hell is he in uniform on a Saturday. The protagonist has no idea what Saturday means, which leaves Steel even more puzzled by this guy. Steel calls him over and asks if he does not enjoy fighting. Lee lies again, saying he only fights out of necessity. But Steel remembers there is no way that is true. He tells him to hang out with him for a while. With him around, boredom from lack of fights would never be a problem. Lee Jo smiles right away, saying he is really a good friend. Can't wait to find a place where the fights never end. All the while, Jong is in the backpack silently planning to kill Steel. Next chapter. Friday at Guryong School. One of the bathrooms is out of order. Inside, a guy leaning against the wall asks how much kid brought. The exhausted boy says 20,000. 40-year-old man laughs and is telling him he must be crazy. That amount is not even close to enough. That guy is Joe. The boy in front of him is the same one who stole the bike and then got beat up by the main character. He says it was all Steel's fault. In that moment, Jay hits the wall and says they are going to make that bastard pay. He tells them to call everyone to sort this out. That was Friday. And now we return to Saturday with Steel saying he used to fight alone out of anger, but now he feels like he can really enjoy a good fight. The main character, however, wants to know why they do not just fight each other instead of looking. Steel tells him to chill out, that they will have a rematch soon, and just then they notice a strange cloud of smoke coming from the side. Steel quickly realizes it is cigarette smoke and wonders how many packs they must be burning for it so thick. Pulls out a mask and some goggles, convinced they must be dealing with some thugs. When they reach the alley, someone at the back says, just to report that they found nothing. Steel walks. One of the guys slaps him in the face and asks, what the hell are you doing here? Were you trying to get your wallet stolen? Yeah. They land a punch on his cheek and he falls to the ground. In that moment, the guys panic and he sees that the alley is full of an entire gang. Unfortunately, there were more than he expected. At that moment, protagonist appears behind them, ready to fight. He is standing there, waiting for someone to throw the first punch so he can hit back, and then one of them grabs his leg, asking if that bastard is. Lejo turns around and asks if the guy really just pinched him. Too bad for them. Now he does not have to hold back, and just like that, fight is over. They are all already lying on the ground. Lejo can't believe that these tough guys in the city are actually so weak. Picks up a wallet from the ground to return it to a girl, his classmate. But just then, Jong warns him that more people are coming, who had received a message about Steel showing up. He grabs his bat, trying to stay calm. Meanwhile, Leo is getting more and more excited, saying this is the perfect situation for him. A dirty, chaotic fight, no rules. They are already throwing punches back and forth. Then, he gets hit on the head and slammed to the ground. Ju asks, who the hell is this weirdo? Since there was supposed to be just one, and that other guy who saw them fighting in class is wondering why he has not been responding to message. At that moment, he notices the fight in the alley and says these guys are pathetic. They really have so much free time. But then something surprising happened. His name is Jae Jun, and his father had been a Mema champion. To the boy, his father was always a strong man, but one day a needle fell nearby, and strangely his father kept getting stronger and stronger. He got drunk on that juice. The boy started to notice he was going crazy, and unfortunately, his father was no longer strong just in the ring. He also became violent at home. From that day on, he seemed more like a monster than a father. His mother fled to escape the abuse, but Jae Jun could not leave since he had to stay to protect his younger brother. Still, he kept watching his father fight, memorizing how he moved and learning every technique. Eventually, the son grew to match his father's size, until one incident changed everything. Ian finally exploded and threw his first direct punch to his father's face. From that moment on, for him, fighting was the same as surviving. His father screamed, calling him an ungrateful bastard, swearing he would kill them both with his own hands. Serious, did he really kill him? That escalated quick from 0 to 100. He had to spend a year locked up in a juvenile detention center. When he left, he had to start working to support himself and his younger brother. In a situation like that, he did not even have the right to hurt sick. He had to take care of his body, because that was how he supported his family. And that is why he thought it was pathetic to see people fight recklessly without caring about anything. I swear I would never act like that. But right there, in the alley, the red-haired girl turned out to be his younger sister. Her name is Haijun and hers is Dalun. Ju is there asking who the boy is while Jong calls our protagonist. At that moment, Jong comes up from behind and kicks right behind the guy's knee, taking him down. Before he could even realize what happened, Jong grabbed his face and slammed it against the ground. Jong is all beaten up, calling for his teacher to wake up. Then, Bam gets a hard kick from Haijun that goes straight for the next opponent. He is taking down everyone and eventually, it is just him and Steel face to face. Ajun says those disgusting bastards should have never crossed the line. Steel asks him to wait and Daljun calls for her brother. He is baffled for a second, realizing he did not know about this. And just then the guy charges at Steel, tries to throw a punch, but Jaejin simply ducks, pushes him back, grabs his sister, and runs away. But in the process, his wallet falls again. Now John still has to get past Joe, who yells at him if he has gone crazy. Ju gets ready to throw a punch that looks like like it lands clean. But it was actually Lijo who got up again. John understands what is going on with this guy, but he just ignores him and runs. Meanwhile, protagonist laughs happily, saying this is incredible. Steel tells him to cover his face before they spot, but by the time he looks up, they are both gone. He grits his teeth, swearing those bastards are finished. Then we move to Steel explaining, that guy is Joe, one of the most notorious criminals around here. He controls the northern area. In the central area is a guy named Diane, and in the south one called Chungo. Three of them together form something called Godori. That group is the biggest source of trouble in the region. He is trying to explain the whole mess, but Lee Hollow wants to know what the hell he is talking about. What is this about criminal extortion to steal money, and what the hell is a Godori? Steel, annoyed, asks if his brain is just for decoration. It is then that Jong jumps out of the bag, saying he has had enough and T hold back anymore. He calls Steel a bastard and says he won't let him talk to his teacher like that. Steel is puzzled by the talking frog, while Liho just shrugs and says it is like a friend of his. Steel says this guy is too suspicious. He does not understand the basics, and now he is hanging out with a talking creature. Must be that. Lee congratulates him, saying that humans really have a great capacity for observation. Claims to be a god, but Steel asks him if he is actually an alien. Obvious. Steel laughs at the idea of him being a god, saying he is too stupid for that, and our guy does not even know he is an alien. Meanwhile, Yugen is confused about why everyone ended up at her house, but as soon as she has Jong Young in her arms, she tells them they can stay as long as they want. Steel decides to cut to the chase, saying that the big guy he fought earlier is his current target. That damn joke who has been causing problems for everyone. Lai remembers fighting that guy gave him a feeling he had not had in a long time. The huge difference in his weight. It had been ages since he last fought like that. Thinks it will be a good experience, but immediately tells Steel that with the body he has now, it is impossible. He needs a lot more training. Steel invites him to the gym, but Liho declines, saying he is not interested in training in a place where they only use fists. He needs something more diverse, more natural and While he is saying all this, Jong is looking at something on his phone and then stumbles over, all cute, asking him to take a look. In a live stream, someone lands a clean punch right to the guy's solar plexus, and he falls to the ground unconscious. The girl from the orange-haired stream says that makes 3 wins in a row, and that anyone who dares to challenge and actually defeats them will receive $1,000,000. Protagonist immediately looks further down in the description and sees that it is Chungu's challenge. He instantly remembers that is one of the names the guy had written on the board. Now he has a new target. First, he will defeat Ju, and then he is going to take down the whole Godori. Meanwhile, in the sky, the fight is happening. Lucifer is throwing everything he has and more against a huge sphere around the earth, but the thing remains intact, and he can't believe it. That damn Mo used to make things disappear so easily with just a touch. This whole structure broke, and he went straight through it. So why can't he do the same now? At the same time, on Earth, Jay is boiling with rage, banging on the door of a public restroom, leaving the poor guy inside, trying to do his business completely fused. He leaves, and in the end, they achieved nothing. They did not recover any money, and they did not catch that damn Steel either. The one with curly hair, however, says he at least managed to grab this wallet here, but when Ju takes it, only 3 coins fall onto his stomach, and he asks if the guy wants to die. It is then that he notices Dal Jun's card falls out. As soon as he picks it up, of course, his expression changes, and he says he found something useful. The next day, protagonist was following a small map president had drawn. A guy was passing by with his dog. Our protagonist calls out, but the guy ignores him. Only his dog picks up Young's scent from the backpack. It goes crazy, roll, and jumps to bite him. Poor Jong. He came from the heavens just to suffer on Earth. He warns that the day he has magic, that dog is also going to die. After following the path drawn by the president, he encounters that girl from the video, and she is rejecting a bunch of people. She sees the uniform and asks he is from a place called Vidolji. He does not understand what she is talking about, and Jong says it must be the name of some group, and tells him to say it. So he says the name, and she wants to know what his experience is. He's confused, so she tells him to declare it. He's a street fighter, a boxer. What does he do? He stands there trying to think of something, counting in his head. Then he blurts out that he has 3 million years of combat experience. The guys in the back are laughing in his face, but the girl says it will be fun. Clearly, he is not all there. The entry fee, however, is 50,000 won. Jong comes up from behind and drops the money in his hand. Turns out Jong must have stolen it because back at home, Yugin is asking his mom where his wallet is. Look at him. It is in the kid's bag and already empty. The only problem is the total was 46,000, but the girl says it is fine. She will let it slide this time. They walk, and then he notices the guy in the green hoodie next. As always, he measures his muscles and realizes the guy is well trained. Now he knows it is the same guy from yesterday's video, the one called Godor. Then, as expected, a mummy-like figure appears with a 10-fall chiseled abdomen. Her little friend introduces her as the champion with 3 consecutive wins. In the middle of the introduction, however, protagonist steps forward with his fist already ready. Since it is a fight both sides agreed to, he does not have to wait for a preemptive strike, but the girl stands in front and asks him, what does he think he is doing? He needs to watch the live broadcast. She shows him the paper and explains that this is a tournament. He can't just go around fighting randomly. The fight had already happened, and now it was the protagonist's turn in the 4th match. He is announced as the self-proclaimed fighter of 3 million years. His opponent, the martial arts master known as the Golden Disciple. Everyone starts placing their bet, and some are actually putting their faith in our guy. Just then, Jong in the backpack spots that dirty dog in the crowd. He remembers it is the bastard that bit him and leaps down next to our guy. He does not understand why Jong is doing this, but the creature says he is going to participate too. Just at that moment, the dog runs over to the other guy. The girl announces that this is incredible. It is a fight, pets included. The 3 million year fight against the international martial arts master, and Jong against Cerberus, but the crowd is baffled, wondering why the guy's pet is a lizard with wings and horns. Still, like everything in this world, they just completely ignore it. The girl declares that the fight is about to start. The so-called international student then asks if the guy is familiar with the martial art called Sangenquan. Oh my, it was a style that imitated animal movements in combat. Impossible to survive again, so he better be careful. The guy lunges, shouting that this is the feline technique, only to be met cannon shot right to the stomach. His face twists complete, and he falls to the ground in agony. Lejo, completely uninterested, says that just because it imitates an animal's movement does not mean it is actually an animal. There was absolutely nothing special about it. The guy gets back up, sore all over, but realizes with just one hit the size of the wall in front of him, he has no other choice but to use that technique. Something his master told him was the last resort, extremely dangerous, something he should always keep in reserve. The man thinks he is Rock Lee now. He puts his hands on the ground and prepares, while Lee Ho looks confused. At the same time, Zhang honest, I do not even know if it is over or fight has not even started yet. I guess it starts now with that Chihuahua making the first move. Right. Speaking of the dog, it executed some kind of footwork moving left and right. The girl even comments that it must be some kind of ninja dog pull-off cloning technique like that. Zhang, however, sees the attack coming and shouts he knows the one in the middle is the real one. But surprise, the little Chocho actually pulled it off. He lunged to the side and sank his teeth into Zhang's neck. The announcer calls it an incredible feat. Clean follow-up. Cervero starts the fight taking control. Now everyone is more interested in what that guy on all fours is doing. He charges forward and the crowd bursts into laughter saying he fights like four-legged beast. Even his own master watches him thinking about how he warned the kid never to use that in front of anyone because he would just embarrass himself. Seeing the attack coming, Lee Ho assumes the hit must be low since the guy is on all fours, but as he gets closer, the guy suddenly jumps up, then throws a strike like a tiger's claw right to his face. What the hell? Lee Jo is shocked. If that had really been a beast's claw, he would have really died. Immediately the guy stops and goes back again, now mixing a cat strike, to a move, even a horse kick. Holy cow. Crowd is stunned. They had never seen a human execute quadruped style moves with such precision. It was almost impossible to predict, which he absolutely loved. Looking at the Chihuahua, figures he just has to think of this guy as another kind of four-legged animal, and everything should work. When the guy goes for his next attack, like crouch, activates the muscles in his leg and jump, disappearing from the front and rising in the air with everyone recording. Before the guy can react, crashes down on his head, smashing his face into the ground. He declares that the weakness of quadruple will always be attacks from above. Everyone who bet on the other guy screams in despair, while our boy wonders what happened to Zhang Yang. It is then that he looks and sees poor little dragon completely finished. Why is he always so weak? The violent Chihuahua is there staring at. Then the mutt rolls onto his back. He is using that skill of his, strong against the weak, weak against the strong. With that, both the master and his fighter are declared losers, and our boy wins the fight. Seeing the dragon by his side, people in the crowd are already searching on Google where to adopt a lizard next to it. Fights progressing until the sixth match arrived. This would decide the second final. Would it be the self-claimed 3 million-year fighter, the one who beat Sang, or the guy who represented boxing? And guess who shows up? It is what? I thought that guy had already retired. The story goes that our guy has one win and one loss against him. I do not remember him ever losing, but if that is what they say, I will accept it. He looks excited, remembering the fool who always collapses in agony after getting in the face. The blonde, however, thinks he has a chance, telling himself all he has to do is keep his guard up. The two face off and the fight begins with both charging forward, but Liu throws a punch so hard that his whole hand hurt because he is a complete lunatic. Hit the guy's plaster. The blonde tells him he is an idiot. Plaster is on him because of him, but the protagonist is there dying of pain, which for him means he was excited to feel alive. The blonde realizes as always that this guy was strangely dangerous, and he had to be careful. His plan at first was to throw some jabs and then finish kick. This guy thinks he is a fighter, so there is no way he saw that coming. Kid, of course, notices the muscle fibers in his leg activating. The blonde is watching excited, but our guy blocks the attack just like Steel did to him. Fool loses his balance, and right then he hits him on the chin. He copied everything Steel had done. The guy falls to the ground and immediately goes back to biting. No way. Crowd groans in disbelief. He left another mark on the poor guy, and with that, we reach the final. The muscular mummy with abs against our 3,000-year-old fighter. Whoever wins will take home $1 million. Before the introductions are even over, protagonist charges forward only to get hit on the side of the head, but the tough guy manages to defend himself, realizing her kick is actually really fast. Keeps moving forward while she fights like that guy from How to Fight, backing up with her hands in her pockets all stylish. Protagonist knew she was not going to be an easy opponent. It was time to put that weird, ugly face of his to use. Girl asks if he is hurt, if he is in pain, what is going on, but he just moves forward again with that strange look and now gets a kick right to the head. But his strategy was to use the spin of his kick to launch his own. Just as he comes back, he knocks off the cap and almost hits him right in the girl is impressed that he managed to do it, and our guy realizes the only reason he did not connect was because he is only 5'7". His short stature was really a disadvantage. The muscular mummy, that I honestly am starting to like, charges to stomp and lands a hit on his guard, instantly following up with another attack. I swear, these teenagers are straight out of Dragon Ball. Check this out. She goes for another hit and he disappears like Goku with instant transmission. He is already behind her using that drooped style he caught from the other fighter. Against someone who relies on staying low is much better, and he moves forward again. She tries a low kick, but he easily dodges it. She realizes she never trained in low kicks in her life, so fighting this way is hard for her. And the guy who got defeated before Kanti believed the style he took 5 years to master, this kid learned so easily. Thinks it can't be that good yet, but his teacher is red in the face, which probably means he really is. Girl tries another big, but the protagonist slides to the side and appears behind. When she turns around asking where that pest went, she feels something coming close. She throws a spinning kick, but it is just her hat that she left behind. Now he is right in her blind spot, activating the Sangong style in Bahamut mode. The next chapter starts by saying that Mo was originally from Earth, but did not stay there exclusive. 3,000 years before becoming an entity above all others, he went to Lucifer's planet. Apparently, it was not by choice, but unlike Earth, that place was overflowing with mana. As a result, all the creatures there evolved rapidly, came to be known as monsters, and Mu became stronger and stronger fighting against them. Among all the quadrupeds he faced, the strongest was Vegemite, and now he is channeling the authority of that creature, thinking to himself that the C technique is to adjust the control of his muscle to exactly match the monster. He charges straight at her abdomen and strikes with a Vegemite claw that sends the girl flying. She crashed into the bench, clutching her stomach in pain. Protagonist was already running, ready to crush her with his hands. He was fired up. The girl suddenly stepped in and said the fight was over. When the opponent left the ring, she was disqualified, which meant he had won. Everyone thought the ending was really anticlimactic. The girl just said that was it for today's broadcast. She called our guy and told him to go pick up his prize. But then they went to an alley, and she told him that to claim the reward, he had to beat everyone. The truth was that up until now he had not faced the real challenge to win $1 million. There was still one more opponent left. And then she turned around and hit him with a flying knee right in the chest. She revealed she was the real final boss, the Chungu of Ghidorah. The worst part was that Lyo saw the muscle fibers in her leg act, but as always, waiting for the first attack. He let her hit him. This time, however, maybe it was not the best choice. After that, she walked past the muscular mummy with Ab, warning him to be careful next time, because they almost lost $1 million. And then she left, while Liho was there writhing in pain, screaming for that witch to come back. He was still trying to tough it out and fighting. Just then he told Jong to grab the orb. But where was Jong? That is when we see that guy from the fight in the class, the one who got hit, running with Jongito in a bag without a doubt. He wondered how he had ended up in that situation. It all started with a betting site that Wakil had introduced him to. He just wanted to make some money, but things got out of control. 5,000 ones disappeared. Now he was running away, saying he remembered a place where students could exchange things as collateral. He walked into a room, left Jong at the table, and the guy there asked what kind of creature was all tied up like that. The kid showed his phone and said it was a species called tuatara, an extremely rare animal that only exists in New Zealand. All the guy had to do was look at the phone. Look, they looked exactly the same. But another man commented that clearly this thing was a mute since it had horns and wings. Kid shouted that collectors would definitely pay a fortune. He said he had asked. People online said they would pay hundreds of millions. The man in purple standing in the corner seemed to give a signal, and the deal was closed. In the end, he only got $1 million, but for him, that was fine. He could use it to buy others. He was leaving happy when someone stepped in his way and threw Dalin's student it on the table. He said that was the collateral. The man told him to take off his hood. It turns out he was pretending to be Dalin, and the guy pointed out the photo was too edited. Still, the student card was worth 500,000 hon. In fact, that was actually valuable. It seemed to work. He left and someone asked if it was a success. He replied that it was easy, but he never wanted to go back there again. Too creepy. That was Grandma's pawn, and the guy in purple was there shuffling cards. Then the blonde got up and said that judging by appearances, the guy was not going to pay. Was that really okay? The guy in purple threw the card or trapped Jong and said it was fine. Just because they could not pay did not mean they could not collect. Next chapter. Yin is in a panic because Jong has disappeared. Protagonist assumed the little creature must have run to her, but apparently not. Now she is frantically searching everywhere, saying could not have gone far. She ran desperately screaming for Jong. Jong opened the door, broke every cabinet while Lijo was there. Then his teacher grabbed, asking what she was doing in another class. She was supposed to be sitting quietly in her seat. She told our boy that she had already checked every room and that Jong was not in any of them. He says of course not, because he did not disappear here. She wants to know where it happened, and just then he shows her the map. She remembers it is the same map she had drawn, and he tells her it was exactly there where it disappeared. Immediately, she runs out, but the teacher chases her, grabs her by the neck, and sits her back down in the chair. Liu is completely disappointed. He could not even fight well, and the most frustrating part is that his body's condition was still a mess. Few small confrontations already made him feel like he was on the edge, and that is exactly how he likes it, because that way he can fight pure willpower. He stays calm, telling himself he just has to recover, get Jong and the orb back, and then return to fighting. But as soon as class ends, Yujin is already dragging him down the hallway. Kangchul asks, what is going on? Why are they running like that? At the same time, Daljin asks if anyone has seen his wallet, and suddenly Yujin asks if they are a couple. From their horrible expression, it is clear they are not. She then asks for help, explaining that she lost her little dragon. Someone could help find it. The guy asks what kind of lizard it is, and our guy says it is a dragon. It used to be huge, but now it has shrunk to this tiny size. The color of his skin is not exactly appetizing, but his back is nice and smooth, perfect for flying. He is just rambling. Meanwhile, 3 of them are already running. For him, this is perfect. While those guys are looking for Jong, he will focus on recovering and training. Switch into Joe, another gambling addict. Good grief, how can people even believe in casino? Imagine thinking that the people who created the game to make money are going to let you win money. What innocent. Look at this perfect example. Ju is celebrating after winning, but when he tries to cash out, he is blocked. It has been 6 days since the search for Jong began. Lijo keeps giving the teacher's muscles a strange look, while the 2 girls in class are still searching, even putting up missing person posters. A whole week has passed searching for the little dragon, and our protagonist could not care less. Eugene apologizes for taking up the other girl's time, but she replies that she does not spend much time studying anyway. Still, she is now angry because the owner of the useless pet is the one looking the least. He says he is going to buy some drink and will be back soon, but just then the blonde appears behind her and sees the name Daljin. Oh no, the loan was taken out in her name, and now she is the one who has to pay the price. When Eugene comes back, Daljin is no longer there. A few days earlier, we see our boy looking at the teacher's muscle. The teacher asks him what he wants. The boy is just staring at his deltoid, imagining that is how he should look. He even starts touching the teacher's chest, who blushes and says he trains a lot. His muscles were solid. The teacher is flattered. He says, "This kid really understands the world." It is then that the protagonist says it is fine. He has decided he wants to train with. Now, back in the present, Daljun confronts the guy who has his card, demanding it back, saying it belongs to him. The blonde responds that they already know, but he has to pay back the money he borrowed. She says she has never heard of that, but someone in the back bangs on the table. It is the guy in the purple hoodie telling her that she took money and now wants to play dumb. Better drop the act and make the payment. The blonde adds that he has her card because of the loan she took. She asks how much the loan was, and he says 500,000. But since some time has passed, it has gone up another. She replies that it is not even that much, so she will pay it in a week. Puts the card away in the drawer. He says it is fine, but warns her to come back soon because he is not in the mood to chase her again. She leaves, telling him to wait because she will bring the money soon. She knocks on the door and the blonde guy says, "Kids these days are a disgrace." Purple-haired guy asks if he is talking about him, and the blonde quickly apologizes. Seems like it must be someone from school. A little while later, an argument breaks out inside and the guys lock the room and leave. They hide the key the classic way, like everyone who puts it under the doormat, but this time they leave it on the plant. The blonde goes down the stairs, but Daljun has seen everything. No way was he going to give money to those disgusting scammers. She walks to the door, immediately notices the key next to it, and turns the doorknob. But just as she is entering, someone comes down the hallway. She runs to the drawer, grabs her student id, but then hears a noise nearby. When she opens it to check, it is Jong shouting for help, but there is a shadow behind her. When she turns around, he covers her mouth and tells her to quiet. He recognizes her as the girl from the wallet and says he knows she is there to get her student id back. He is there for the same reason, so they might as well keep quiet. Later, she is walking down the hallway, saying that little creature really looks like the one from that cartoon. Stealing someone's pet was disgusting. The owners of that place were truly terrible, but she had not realized everything was being recorded. The next day, she arrives at school and calls Yugen, who asks where she disappeared to. She vanished into thin air, and Yugen was worried. Daljun apologizes but says he brought something for her. That is when Jong jumps out of his backpack, and Yugen hugs him tight, saying she missed him so much. But Jong already smells like his teacher and flies straight into his arm. Protagonist, however, feels a sharp pain in all his muscles and ends up throwing him to the ground. Realizing it is Jong, he apologizes, saying he has been training so much lately that his whole body is sore. Yin scolds, telling him to stop mistreating the little one like that. Meanwhile, in Grandma's lone off, they are watching on camera as Daljun escapes with Jong, and just after, Jay also passes. The blonde is complaining that they lost 2 student UD, and even the lizards weren't. What are they supposed to do now? Purple-haired guy is obviously furious, wanting to hit someone and blaming the blonde for losing the key, but in the end, they let it slide. Even if they did not get that money, it was just a small amount. The real problem was that the guys had broken into the office. That was the real crime. Next chapter, a simple little soccer game. Someone throws the eagle shot, hitting the guy right in the face, and he just smiles with blood dripping to the ground, and of course, he is about to hit the guy. Oh my, he hits him right in the stomach. While everyone is asking if he has lost his mind, the protagonist says this kind of gym class is amazing. Meanwhile, Eugen decides to teach the dragon how to use a cell phone since he does not care about any. At least this way they could communicate. He just had to send a message. Jong is not understanding messages, or she says she will explain it to him. But just then he sees the guy who captured him sitting in front of him. I thought he was going to run away, but instead, he lunges, biting the guy's head, screaming that he is the damn kidnapper. The guy grabs him from behind and throws him away, but Jong comes back to attack. The main character is being scolded by the teacher, who warns him that if he keeps getting into trouble, he won't help him improve his body anymore. But just then, the fool crashes into him, since he hit him first. Lee Jo instantly counts, declaring that class has started again, but the teacher stretches his neck, yelling at him to stop. Class ends and everyone goes home while our guy says that gym class is the best class of all. Wishing he had it every day, Yugen replies that that is normal, but he knows he does not really understand what that class is for. What he wants to know is, don't you have training today? Would you rather leave Jong alone? They are chatting while nearby Dallin talks to a friend, and John is on his phone saying he is on his way. But just then she runs into Joe, beaten up and demanding that she hand over her student ed. She asks who he is, and he just says they were both caught on camera, so she would better hand it over. The two girls are cute, not understanding anything, but he warns them that if they do not hand it over, their faces will end up as smashed. He says that is better. Then he reaches into his bag to grab it, but in the disc, who is watching? Heian and Steel are not happy and charge forward immediately. The protagonist does not understand, but he notices something. Ju is holding Dallin by the neck when the two arrive. He gets hit in the face and another in the chest. Then, what does our protagonist do? He steps in front to protect Joe. He even says that Ju came to challenge him first, so why are they ignoring? Everyone is confused, even Joe. Seeing the chaos, Ju grabs Daljun by the arm and flees. The chase begins with everyone after him until they corner him in an alley. Steel remembers that alley well. It is the same place where that gang of thugs were. Janjo throws Dallin to the ground and calls out that now with no one around, they can all come at Bray, especially considering he had already taken a beating before. The protagonist says he will step forward, but Jaein tells him to wait, warning him to stop playing around. If he had not blocked that attack earlier, they would not even be there. Now, however, Lejo says he does not care, that if they want to fight, then let us settle it. But Jay grabs his etching arm from the training. Our guy glares at him and goes for a punch, but Jay dodges it, grabs his shoulder, hooks a leg behind him, and slams him to the ground. The protagonist is stunned as John runs, grabs his sister by the arm, and decides that in a situation like this, the best thing to do is flee. Ju is furious about losing his student id while Lee Ho, lying on the ground, realizes that the training worked. He felt nothing when Jijo threw him. All he had to do was contract his back muscles, expand them, and he was fine. He gets up. Steel asks if he needs help, but he declines. Ju throws a heavy slap toward his face. This time he dodges it. Still, the bastard grabs him by the arm, throws him to the ground again. But once again, Lee Ho notices that the impact did not hurt at all. Maybe the training was really work, except it was not. Oh my, it was poor Jong Yong on his back who was taking the beating. Ju moves in to stomp on his head, but the son dodges, gets up, and calls him a bastard, shouting about what he did to poor Jong. Now it is his turn to go on the attack. He unleashes a flurry of punches. Ju is bewildered. Those hits hurt hurt too much for someone so light. But our protagonist fired up, saying that all of this is for revenge. Ju lunges, trying to tackle him with his body. Our guy sees it as a huge rock charging it. He gets ready by flexing the muscles in his leg to stay steady. He gets pushed back, but he is still standing. Steel offers to step in, but he refuses. The weight difference was still too much to completely overcome. Still, there were no stones his fist could not break. He charges again, targeting the weak spot, breaking them little by little. He ducks under an arm and lands a punch to Joe's rib, then behind his thigh. Django turns, but he is already on the other side, hitting both legs. Again, Django ducks, yelling at him to stop fighting like a rat, and then out of nowhere shouts at Steel not to interfere in his duel. The protagonist turns to say the same, but sees that Steel is standing still, and that is when Jay sneaks up from behind and catches him in a chokehold. He is already celebrating, saying he caught the rat. The protagonist struggles to break free while Steel wonders. Things are getting dangerous. Protagonist screams, almost begging for help, and Steel rushes forward. But just before he gets there, protagonist yells not to interfere, that under no circumstances should anyone help. He wants to handle every situation on his own. He realizes what Joe is doing, crushing the blood vessel, cutting off blood flow to the brain, and he will pass out soon. Vero, all he has to do to stop it is tighten the neck muscle, break the hold, and slide his arm underneath. By putting all the strength of his forearm in that position, he not only stops the strangulation but also tightens Joe's arm. The moment Jay feels pain, protagonist headbutts him and forces him back. Ju murmurs that this bastard really is a psychopath. Meanwhile, Leho notices that the unbreakable stone is starting to crack. It was time to aim straight for the center. Finally, we see the training arc he had been waiting for a few days earlier in the gym. The instructor was showing him how to do squat. The man was excited, saying that leg pumping was the best of all. Leo observes the muscle activation and agrees. It really was an excellent exercise. As soon as the instructor leaves, he goes straight for the bar, but the instructor warns him to wait. That weight is too much, and he will hurt himself. Lejo laughs, saying it is funny that he thinks that is heavy, but his skinny little legs are shaking like noodles in all directions. The instructor warns him again that he will get injured, but he insists that he is fine. Mu had always been a master at the art of muscle. Master might not even be enough to describe him. Control every muscle in his body, redistribute fibers as he wished, and strengthen others. The man could even shift muscle mass from his legs to his arms, somehow, and take down a pyramid. No form of muscle control was for Mu. The only reason he stopped using it was that, once he gained too much muscle, this technique became unnecessary. But now here's Lejo with tiny arms going down into squat. Back to the fight. He focuses all his muscle into his arm. Steel asks if he is okay, and in that moment, our boy remembers that twisting torso strike he had used before. Ju tries to defend himself, but it is already too late. The stone breaks, and he collapses unconscious on the ground. Lejo looks at him and smiles, saying he beat that bastard. Godori's first card had been shattered. On the way home, John asks his sister if she knows who that weirdo was, and why he was following her. She apologizes for not saying anything earlier. Then she tells him the whole story, how she lost her wallet, the threats from the blonde guy, the day she ran into Ju, and everything that happened. Han is boiling with rage, and she realizes she is in trouble now. He is not going to let this slide. He knows those guys will keep using money as an excuse to torment her. He immediately calls the class president and says he unfortunately won't be going to school today. The scene shifts to Grandma's loan off. Suddenly, the door slams open, and before the man in the boat can even react, he gets a clean hit to the head and starts getting brutally beat. Interesting, the blonde guy celebrates, saying he deserves it. His friend asks what the hell he is doing, but the blonde just apologizes, saying he will make a call. He brings in two gangsters from the next room, but Heijin still does not fully realize demon blood he hated so much runs through his veins. He charges at the first thug with a single punch, and the bald guy gets knocked out straight to the street. And then chaos. Everyone in the room gets taken down. He spits on the bastard, saying they would better not come asking for money because he never took any. The guy in the purple hood, all beaten up, asks him if Heijin even knows who he is. Heijin replies that he does not care, and if he keeps bothering, he will just come back again. Then he steps on the bald guy as he leaves. The guy in purple is boiling with rage, wondering what he should do next. Walking down the street, Leho is Jong sitting on his head, looking weaker and weaker, saying the fight was fun. Steel, however, wants to know how the kid made his arm grow out of nowhere. Our guy explains that it is easy and even demonstrates it. Steel tries it, but of course, it does not work, and Leho tells him it is, because he still does not know how to communicate properly his own muscle. He needs to learn to listen to each one, since every muscle is different and requires attention. When his heart and muscle come one speaking the same language, only then will he be able to control them and do what he wants. Steel tries it, but does not get anywhere, while Jong tells him to stop teaching secret technique. But Leo says the stronger Steel gets, the better it will be for him too, because the only way to get stronger is by fighting stronger opponent, and he needs to evolve a lot since he has to defeat that damn Lucifer. Jong tells him to chill. That guy won't be able to invade this planet because of the barrier, but Leho says unfortunately they do not have much time. Sooner or later the barrier will collapse and Lucifer will come to Earth to show what he is capable of. That is why from now on there will be nothing but training. The scene shifts to the man in the purple coat, who is trying to explain the situation to another gangster. He says he is going to raise interest rate and get all the money back, that there is nothing to worry about. The guy with the glasses tells him to calm down. There is no reason to get so worked up over a single law. The business world is full of ups and downs, and this was just an experience. What he wants to know is how he had so many people supporting and still lost everything. But it is okay. He hugs him and says he will take care of things. That guy is Choi Sangil. Now everyone who was in that room is completely devastated. The guy with the bat on his back wants to know how a simple high school kid knocked them out and robbed. Points the bat at the blonde, tells him to open his mouth, and when he obeys, he drops something on his tongue and orders him to leave. In the elevator, Sangil tells the hooded guy that what he gave him is not bad at all. Problem is that his targets were students. There is no profit in squeezing the kid. He tells him to come see what is going on. In front of them, there is an octagon, crowd screaming around it. The hooded guy asks, "What is that?" And the older man replies that it is a game he controls. He tells him to watch fight, and there is the same blonde from before, now steaming with bulging muscle. The hooded figure wonders if it has always been this way, but before getting an answer, fight begins. Blonde charges, grabs his opponent's arm, slams him to the ground, breaking it and then punches him in the face. The blonde is enjoying himself like never before, shouting that his power keeps growing, barely believing this is really him. Sancta takes a pill and explains that is the effect of just one. With it, he can always decide who wins and who loses. The hooded boy thinks to himself that with something like that, he could finally crush that person. Meanwhile, Lee Ho Ho is in the gym training hard. Kid has turned into a muscle ball. He tells the instructor that training makes your thighs burn like this. Then it is amazing. The instructor, however, looks at his arms and legs and says he has seen a lot of people claim to know how to train, but never anyone improve this. He asks if he has been using any. Lee Ho just replies that it is because he is weak. The instructor misinterprets, thinking he means he is using some substance, and tells him to stop immediately because it is extremely dangerous. But the kid says he is weak, way too weak. After all, to fight that guy, he is not even close to being ready. Someone even comments that they should give the little lizard a bath and bring him some bugs to eat. Poor guy has been working overtime and has not complained once. Who would have thought in the next chapter? There he is, completely intact, lying on our boy's back with a little phone on his chest. He says he got a call. Then he presses it to his head so the phone is against his ear. It is Yin shouting, asking why Jong has not shown up at her house all week. She wants to know where he is. In the meantime, the boy has turned into a real muscle mutant, saying he is going out to test his training. And just at that moment, look who is waiting in the alley. That sly girl from before, saying that today's results were good. Then he shows up saying he is really happy to see both. The girl just replies that she did not get the message, that she wants more. And bam goes straight in, hitting her with his knee to the chest. She gets excited, saying that is right on target, but he barely steps back, staying intact and smiling. At the moment of impact, he shifted the muscles in his chest over the bone to protect himself. Now his kick was far from critical, and he moves forward. Protagonist is now buff, completely trans. This time the tables have turned. He had the weight advantage. Kicks her hard, throwing her to the side, but the tough girl clings to his leg, insisting she won't lose just because she is smaller, and she jabs an elbow straight into his knee. Our guy hesitates, and she points out that she has become tough. That just means he will have to go all out. While he is still looking at his leg, she lunges and unleashes a flurry of elbows to his chin. She goes for another shot to the rib, but realizes that for some reason none of her attacks are hitting. Then she notices that his leg is trapped. He has blocked her with his muscle. He counters with Joe's technique, grabbing her and slamming her to the ground. He moves to stomp on her head, but she vanishes. It is then that he drains the muscles from his upper body, shifts them all to his leg, and jumps towards her. In midair, he shifts everything back to his torso, and then uses his weight to knock her back. The abs mom asks if she is okay, while she wonders if this guy could out-o Joe. She immediately says she will join in and throws a kick, but Lee Hoiza closes the distance hard and goes straight for her face. It looked like he was going to hit, but Chungo intervenes and elbows him in the face. Still, keeps smiling, reaching out towards her face, only for the other girl to stomp on his head. The two unleash a flurry of attack, while poor Jong gets caught in the middle, suffering for no reason. But Lijo is thrilled. The training was worth. His former self would not have lasted this long. The only problem is figuring out how to take one down without the other interfering. Jong mutters that they are both damn cheaters. That is when Lee Ho says he has an idea to extend their attack range. Before Jong can even respond, grabs him by the tail and charges forward, declaring it is now 2 against 2. The girls are stunned as he swings him in a flurry of smacking both of them in the face. Chunga lands a hit on his hand and yanks Jong from his grip. The little guy goes flying while our protagonist beaten up. Still, he fights his way, recovers Jong, throws him back into the fray. But Chung thinks that using any weapon just creates vulnerability. All he had to do was close the distance and nothing would work. I thought he would not succeed, but then she lands a clean punch to the jaw. Jong spins out, but our guy had already tensed his neck muscle. Speaking of B, she throws a dragging, but our guy charges at her with a headbutt, sending her to the ground. Comments that strengthening the neck is perfect in this situation. You absorb the impact that would shake your head, and at the same time, you use that force to headbutt. While Jong was blocking the mom from doing crunches, she breaks free and charges straight at a brutal bang. A brutal kick to his rib, but he had already shifted his muscle, caught her leg, and used her own technique by driving an elbow into her knee. Even so, she does a somersault and throws a spinning kick in the air. Still, he catches her other leg. Normally, he prefers punches over grappling, but this time he went back to the old method. He blocks a leg lock by twisting it like a knot. Poor girl screams in pain, her muscles burning as he twists harder. She screams that she gives up and begs him to stop, but he says it is time to leave his mark. She suddenly turns and kicks him in the face. He asks, what the hell was that? She said she was done, so why did she still have so much energy? He lunges again, but she unleashes a combo, tells him to take, and then disappears. Left alone, he finds money in his hand and Jong lying on the ground, puts on her hat, and says next time, he will make sure to leave a bite mark. Meanwhile, the mom of the abs is running with Chung in her arm, yelling at him to wake up. Honestly, I wish I knew this woman's name so I could stop calling her mom, but since she never reveals it, what can I do? The scene changes. Jay is walking angrily through the city with his ear all bandaged up. Nothing has been going well for him lately. Those damn kids at school have ruined all his plans. He kicks a stone in the street, when suddenly someone asks him why his face looks like that. Purple-haired kid, Quack Digit, wants to know who has been beating him up. Jay tells him to step aside, unless he wants to be the next punching bag. He grabs him by the neck, but it turns out to be the hooded kid, who swallows one of those pills and immediately swells up, turning purple and muscular. Ju is thrown against a wall with his teeth flying. The next day we see the two girls walking through the city, one without a cap, the other with a bump on her head. Suddenly, they run into that bastard again. They demand to know what Digin is doing there. Once again, he swallows that drug, wells up, and mocks that the two of them have no luck. Something ignites in his chest, and his body radiates an aura. He explains first side effect is that the personality becomes violent. Chungu asks why his body is expanding, and he just says that with Ji it is all fixed. By the time he is done with those two, there won't be any Godori left in this city. He would be the absolute boss. He charges at her, and even though she is confused, she dodges to one side, then the other, before delivering a whip-like strike to his head. She was the queen of ab, but it did not even faze him. Chungu comes in, jabbing her in the skull with an elbow, but all he manages to do is hurt his arm. The two are shocked. Hit him. Felt felt like hitting steel. His body was well beyond what a human should endure. He grabs her leg and delivers a brutal kick, breaks bone. Chungu curses the bastard. He tries to throw a punch, but no matter what he does, he remains unscathed. He grabs her head, says it feels like tick, and then slams her into the ground. There, another one crushed down in the same spot. Dijin laughs, saying it is pathetic. This level of Godori is way too low. He walks away saying that everything is going to be easy to handle. Now it is clear. This guy must be that kid from the protagonist's class, or maybe not. Either way, he is face to face with the man in the purple hood, who asks if he is enjoying the show. The guy says yes. This thing is driving him crazy. He feels like there is no way he can lose to anyone. The guy in the purple hoodie tells him that now that he is done with the Godori guy, he needs to help finish the job he was asked to do. Dijin says not to worry. He will crush whoever he wants. Then he asks the hooded man why he does not just take pills himself and take care of everyone. It is then that we see the truth. Angel had already warned that the stronger someone became, the worse the side effects were. Personality becomes violent, and in the end, of all the effects, you literally explode. But he is lying, saying he is a bit sick with medication, so he can't take them right now. Meanwhile, protagonist is walking around the city, Zhang looking for something. Turns out they are tracking down the missing members of Godori. Later, back in class, he asks Yujin where that school is for those girls he fought for. She does not care about that. She is more interested in admiring Zhang, but he insists, so she finally draws him a map. Now he is on his way, cap on his head, Zhang Young on his back. When he arrives, poor mom of the abs is limping with crutches and a broken leg. They come face to face, and she notices his cap. The scene cuts to the hospital, where he asks what happened to the girl, or rather boy, since that is how they refer to her. The mom explains that they were ambushed and brutally beaten, and obviously it was not him, even though he is a psychopath too. She called the police, but no one went to the school, and no one else has seen the attack. That damn Dijin. Then he hears someone groaning behind it. When he opens it, there is Joe, completely smashed up, twisted and broke, struggling to talk, saying that it was that damn Dijin who did this to him. He says he hates them all, but he will tell what happened. The guy attacked, he swallowed a drug, and suddenly he became incredibly strong. Ju used to be the weakest of all the Godori, but out of nowhere he became the strongest opponent Ju had ever faced. Liu had always thought Ju was one of the strongest. He never imagined that the poor guy had no chance, which means that whatever happens, he will have to fight that person. He demands to know where Dijin is. The mom says that even the police can't track him down, but Lijo responds that it is okay. He will find him himself back at school. They have him carrying box. The teacher tells him that the secret is to turn your whole life into training. That way, you will always be working out. The protagonist carries the load, but his mind is elsewhere. How is he supposed to find Dijin? While he thinks, someone walks behind him with a phone in hand, saying they are looking at him. The voice on the call warns him to take her to a safe place, but he responds no way. He is going to fix this here and now. Bursts into the classroom looking for John. Pill swallow. Kicks the door in and calls him out, saying he is going to die today. He grabs a poor kid sitting nearby and throws a chair straight at John, breaking the window. Before John can ask what is going on, Dijin lunges and saying there 1TB any talking and hits him with his arm, slamming him against the lock. It looks like Ajun is about to get beaten up. He dodges another punch, but Dijin's hand sinks straight into the metal wall. Ajun responds saying this is self-defense, throws a direct punch to the face. Surprisingly, it seems he managed to do some damage. He follows up with a flurry of punches, chest, face, stomach, but the guy looks unfazed. Jaejun lands another punch on the chin. Clearly, nothing is working. Dijin crushes his whole hand, and everyone in the class is left confused, wondering who the hell this guy is. At the door, Steel and Daljun show up wanting to know what all the commotion is, and that is when she realizes he is her brother. She throws a sandal at his back, telling him to get lost, but he just says no and gets ready to hit her in the head. Steve intervenes, punches, and demands Dine to explain what he thinks he is doing. At the same time, Heejin comes in with a knee from above and an elbow to the guy's arm. He manages to break free for a moment, thinking that this bastard went too far trying to lay his hands on Dallin. The two charge at him from opposite sides, while below, the teacher and the protagonist hear the chaos and wonder what is happening. Some students pass by, fans of Godori's fight, and the teacher runs out saying he can't let this happen. Protagonist drops the boxes he was carrying, saying he has to go too, but Zhang, peeking out from the backpack, tells him to wait because he can feel mana in that. Back in the fight, when the two throw their punches, Dijin watches them, but Steel slips under his arm and delivers an uppercut to his chin. He ducks down again, confused. This guy was incredibly strong, but his attacks were ridiculously simple. Dijin loses his cool, calls him a bastard, and tries to catch him, but Jaehyun's behind his knee, bringing him down. When he turns, he takes a sharp blow right between the eyes. No matter how strong the body is, there are always weak points, and the two start hitting him relentlessly. Pushes both, looks towards the door, and runs out, knocking down everyone in his way. He runs towards a bald guy back of the room and demands another pill. The bald, confused, asks what he is talking about, but Dijin just orders him to give it, saying there is no time. He had already told him to catch that kid. That is why he was there. And then, the bastard in the purple hood was this bald guy all along. Now that Agent knows, things do not look good. The bald guy puts the pill into his body and tells him to take care of it. Dijin bites it immediately, saying it is no problem. Han jumps from the camera angle. It is clear he is about to drown, and indeed, they slam him right against the wall. Steel joins him, thrown aside as well. The guy had turned into a purple hawk. Worse yet, Dallin runs towards his brother calling, but he tries to grab his head. Just then, the master intervenes, scolding him, saying that even if a student trains hard in the gym, that does not mean he can go around hitting his classmate. He tries to assert his authority with pure grip strength, but he loses and ends up running away. It is then that the protagonist reaches the door, and Zhang warns him that he can feel mana radiating from that man. The bald guy realizes that this little creature is the guarantee he lost and leaps at him. Oro trips over a sandal on the ground and crashes face first into the protagonist. This time Lion does not say a word. He just grabs him by the head and crushes him with an elbow. The bald guy falls unconscious and his partner gets the order to finish the job. He charges forward saying there is no problem. The punch lands. But the moment it hits the sun's chest, power dissipates. Jong had used his ability to drain the mana, wiping out everything the guy had. That does not mean he did not throw the punch. But now the sun lands a clean one on his face. As he keeps hitting, Jong is puzzled. Where was that mana coming from? A little while later, the guy is a mess on the ground and Lee Jo comments that he was too weak. He looks at Jong and tells him to give back the mana because he needs it for training. The little dragon obeys but warns him to be careful. That mana was not ordinary. It was extremely pure and powerful, something that should be almost impossible to find on Earth. Lee Jo knows this exact. Such mana can only be guaranteed if a god delivers it direct. There was no way a god could be sending mana to the Earth that moment, which was rare. The only other creature that could possibly do it right away looks at Jong and asks was him. Curious, the little one turns all red, embarrassed, and just then Dijin stands up again in front of imposing. The next chapter jumps 1,000 years back to the divine realm in the domain of the Cyclops god. Mu charges forward and the monster raises its mace, telling him there is no way he can win. The blow crashes down hard against the ground, but Mu had already disappeared and with a single punch breaks the mace along with the entire arm of the Cyclops.